Have you ever dreamed of speaking with an American English accent? If so, you're in the right place. Imagine the thrill of sounding just like your favorite American celebrities, whether it's the charming Tom Cruise, the witty Ellen DeGeneres, or someone else entirely. The common link I share with them is the standard American accent. In today's lesson, we're going to explore what sets the standard American accent apart from other English accents, and how you can begin to adopt this accent yourself. To ensure you remember everything we cover, I have some exciting activities planned. We'll kick off the session with a brief overview of 3 of my most popular American English videos, all carefully curated and presented anew for you. The first 20 minutes will focus on interactive American English speaking practice, where you'll have the chance to work on your pronunciation and practice speaking out loud, just like an American. As we wrap up, the final 10 minutes will dive into some bonus idioms that are uniquely American, which you can start using too. So, let's dive right in. Have you ever found yourself engrossed in an American movie, wishing you could effortlessly mimic Tom Cruise's smooth delivery? Or perhaps you've watched one of my videos and thought, I really aspire to sound like Eliza. Well, today I'm here to share valuable tips that will help your pronunciation align more closely with that of an American, specifically the kind of American English spoken in the United States. Before we get too deep into it, let's clarify what we mean by an American accent. After all, the United States is a vast country with a variety of regional accents and dialects. In this lesson, I'll focus on the most prevalent, widely recognized American accent, the one you'd typically hear from news anchors or in Hollywood films. This is the specific accent I refer to when I mention names like Tom Cruise. Just to be clear, I'm not discussing regional accents, such as those found in New York, the South, or California. To fully embrace an American accent, it's crucial to adopt American expressions instead of those that might be more commonly used in British or Australian English. If you're curious about the distinctions between these expressions, I encourage you to check out the playlist I'll link in the description. Lastly, one of the most effective methods to enhance your pronunciation and sound more American, whether you're aiming for this accent or even a British or Australian one, is a technique called shadowing. Shadowing involves listening closely to a speaker and repeating everything they say, word for word, as soon as you hear it. This practice can be incredibly beneficial for honing your accent. If you'd like to learn more about the shadowing technique, I have several videos that detail this process, so be sure to click on the links provided or check the description for additional resources. Let's get started on this journey to speaking like an American. Understanding the intricacies of a language's sounds can significantly enhance your speaking abilities. Today, I'm excited to delve into 4 crucial concepts that, when incorporated into your speech, will help you sound more like a native American English speaker. Are you ready to embrace these linguistic nuances? The first key concept is the transformation of T sounds into D sounds when they occur between 2 vowel sounds. This subtle shift is a hallmark of American English pronunciation. Let's examine an illustrative sentence filled with examples of this phenomenon. Adam. In New York City, he wore an exciting sweater because that always made him satisfied. Alesa. Take note of words such as city, exciting, and sweater. In these cases, the T sound flanked by two vowels transitions into a D sound. Instead of a crisp T sound, you hear a softer D sound. This transformation isn't limited to single words. It can also happen in conversations between words. For example, the phrase "that always" often flows together rapidly, resulting in a seamless connection where the T at the end of "that" shifts to a D, sounding like "that always." Interestingly, I recall a humorous experience with a British friend. Whenever I asked him to mimic an American accent, he would repeatedly say, "water bottle, water bottle, water bottle." This phrase exemplifies the American accent perfectly. It showcases the T to D transformation, as well as another concept we'll explore later in this discussion. Now, let's give you an opportunity to practice this pronunciation shift. We'll listen to that sample sentence once more, and then I'll pause to allow you to repeat it, mimicking the pronunciation as closely as possible. Get ready to engage those speaking muscles. Adam. In New York City, he wore an exciting sweater because that always made him satisfied. Eliza. The second concept that can enhance your American pronunciation is the use of the colored R. You might be wondering, what exactly is a colored R? This occurs in words where an R is immediately followed by a consonant. Essentially, any letter that isn't a vowel, A, E, I, O, U. Examples include combinations like R plus S or R plus D. This unique pairing produces a specific sound that resembles ER. Let's listen to another example that utilizes this colored R frequently. Adam. The first word that you learned is the one you heard the most. Eliza. Did you catch the pattern in this sentence? Various vowel sounds morph into the AER sound. For instance, in the word first, the I sound becomes and in word, the O sound does the same. The same transformation occurs in the words heard and learned, where E and A also blend into the sound. This consistent pattern of the colored R is quintessential to American English and sets it apart from other dialects. By understanding and practicing these pronunciation elements, you'll take significant strides toward sounding more like a native speaker. Let's continue exploring the remaining concepts that will further refine your American English pronunciation skills. Let's take a moment to revisit that audio clip. As we listen again, I encourage you to engage in some active practice by imitating and shadowing the pronunciation style you hear. This exercise is about testing your pronunciation skills and strengthening your vocal muscles. To start, let's channel our inner dogs and try sounding like an angry dog. The first word I want you to focus on is learned. I know it sounds a bit unconventional and maybe even a little silly while you're practicing, but keep in mind that when you converse with others, you can definitely dial it back. The purpose of exaggeration during your practice is to prepare your vocal muscles for the sounds you want to produce. Once your muscles are accustomed to the motion and positioning required, it will feel much more natural when you speak normally. Your muscles will know exactly what to do. So, as you practice, Don't hesitate to amplify your pronunciation. Embrace the challenge. Let's take a moment to listen again, and then I'll give you the opportunity to speak. Remember, the first word that you learned has many layers. Adam. The first word that you learned is the one you heard the most. Aliza. Now I have an important tip for emulating an American accent. Pay special attention to the ending ER sounds in your words. This pronunciation feature is quintessentially American. Before I elaborate further, let's listen to an example sentence that showcases this sound several times. Adam. In the letter he wrote, "Remember to water the flowers." Aliza. I recall how my British friend pronounced water bottle, and it illustrates the key American sound quite well, the ER at the end of the word, pronounced as So when I say, don't forget to water the flowers, really focus on that ending. This practice is going to rigorously challenge your R pronunciation skills. We touched on this in the previous tip, and it's crucial to ensure that your R sounds are strong and crisp. So let's listen to that clip once more, and I'll pause afterwards so you can repeat it out loud. Adam. In the letter he wrote, "Remember to water the flowers." Aliza. Now, let's move to my fourth and final tip, which highlights a notable difference between American English and British English: the ending ARY sounds. We continue to emphasize the R here because it plays an essential role in English pronunciation as well as in many other languages. Often, the R sound presents challenges for speakers from different linguistic backgrounds since it's such a fundamental aspect of English. In this case, ARY at the end of words is fully pronounced in American English. For example, we articulate the entire word: library, secretary, military. Pay close attention to that airy sound. It's distinctively pronounced. Let's listen to a quick sentence that features a couple of these examples together. Adam. At the library, the secretary read a book about the military. Aliza. In American English, each component of the ending ARY is pronounced. Therefore, we say military with all the letters vocalized. In contrast, in British English, they often drop the A, leading to a pronunciation like military, where the A fades away. In American English, however, we pronounce it fully military, ARY. Let's revisit this audio clip one more time, and after listening, I'd like to give you the opportunity to repeat the sentence for practice. Adam. At the library, the secretary read a book about the military. Aliza. So, how did you do with these sentences that reflect American English pronunciation? Did you step up to the challenge and test your skills? Do you feel more confident in your ability to sound American after engaging with this video? I sincerely hope you find these tips beneficial, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Are there additional words or phrases that you believe could help you adopt a more American-sounding accent using these 4 strategies? Please share, as I'm eager to know. Lastly, have you ever pondered whether the American accent is genuinely different from the British accent? The obvious answer is yes, absolutely. Last year, I created a video that has garnered over 1.5 million views titled 4 Secrets to the American English Accent. In that video, we covered the 4 key elements that define the American English accent. Today, we are going to take a more in-depth look at some advanced aspects of the American English accent. Are you ready to explore 4 additional secrets that can enhance your pronunciation skills? After we discuss each secret, I encourage you to practice imitating and shadowing my pronunciation. Let's jump right in. First, it's important to emphasize the significance of practicing these techniques, as they are essential for honing your pronunciation and achieving a more authentic American English sound. Let's begin. The first secret we'll explore is known as the stop T. This phenomenon is extremely common in American English. It occurs when a word ends with the letter T, but the sound isn't fully articulated. To illustrate, consider the word right. You may expect to hear right, but in typical American English, that final T is less pronounced. Instead, when I pronounce that last T, my tongue simply makes contact at the roof of my mouth without fully releasing the sound. This is what we refer to as a stopped T. Let's proceed with a sample sentence. I thought he wouldn't appreciate the plant. As you listen closely, pay attention to the words that end with or include T sounds. Can you detect any of those stopped T's? Let's hear that sentence again. I thought he wouldn't appreciate the plant. In this case, each of the T's you hear has that stopped quality. Here's another example for you. I bought some meat and took it outside. Again, notice how many words here end with T sounds. Listen once more. I bought some meat and took it outside. Even in the word outside, which has a T sound in the middle, it has that stopped articulation because it's comprised of 2 parts, out and side. This is a slight exception to the rule, but still demonstrates the stopped T in use. Now, let's return to that original sentence, and I want you to practice saying it out loud along with me. After hearing several examples, it's time for you to engage those pronunciation muscles. Are you ready? Let's go together. I thought he wouldn't appreciate the plant. Is your tongue stopping at the roof of your mouth? I hope it is. Now, let's take a moment for you to say that on your own. Don't worry about where you are. I'll be virtually there with you. Speak up loud and clear. Go ahead. Fantastic job. Moving on to the second secret of mastering an American English accent, the glottal T. We're back to discussing the letter T. Many people have asked me about the pronunciation of the word sentence. Should it sound like sentence or sentence? Most commonly, I pronounce it as sentence. This leads us to a fascinating feature of American English pronunciation known as the glottal T. The term glottal, referring to the glottis, is a scientific term for a part of your throat. While an in-depth scientific explanation might be complex, let's focus instead on how this concept is used in practice. Listen closely to the following sentence. The winner of the International Winter Olympics has gotten an important award on the Internet. You'll notice several T sounds in the middle of words. Let's analyze this further. There are 2 principal ways to detect the glottal T. The first scenario involves sequences with NT. For example, in the words international, winter, internet, and sentence, the T often gets dropped entirely in casual speech. So instead of fully articulating the T, we commonly pronounce it as sentence, winter, international, internet, with the T mostly omitted. The second context for employing the glottal T arises in words with a T situated in the middle, which may not be immediately preceded by an N. This could include instances such as butter or words with double T's. As we progress, keep these elements in mind and practice repeating after me. Each practice session will help you refine your accent and pronunciation, leading to a more authentic American English sound. For example, consider the words button, gotten, eaten, and important. Have you noticed how my throat momentarily constrains the T sound in the middle of these words? Listen closely again. Button, eaten, gotten, important. It's interesting to observe how my throat is executing some significant work to produce the glottal T sound precisely as it should be pronounced. Before we delve back into practicing that sample sentence, I want to share some intriguing findings from my research on the origins of the glottal T. I discovered on Wikipedia that this phenomenon was first documented in Scotland during the 1800s. A dialect researcher noted that the glottal T is often deemed a lazy habit and suggested that it may have been part of the dialect for centuries. This raises the possibility that Americans might have adopted the glottal T from Scottish influences, although this remains uncertain. Regardless, it has become a relaxed feature of casual American speech. Now let's circle back to that sample sentence and practice it together. I will recite it a few times, and I encourage you to repeat it along with me. Make sure to pay attention to the flow, as I will pause for you to say it on your own after I demonstrate. The sentence is, the winner of the International Winter Olympics has gotten an important award on the Internet. Let's say it one more time together before your moment to shine. Ready? The winner of the International Winter Olympics has gotten an important award on the Internet. Okay, here comes the pause. I'd like you to try saying the entire sentence independently now. Go ahead. Fantastic job. Now let's move on to the third key aspect of developing an American English accent, contractions with the word will. There are two ways to pronounce these contractions, a clear pronunciation and a more relaxed version. To illustrate this, let's take the phrase, you will. When we form a contraction, it becomes you'll, spelled Y-O-U''. When pronounced clearly, it sounds like this. You'll. Notice how distinct the words are. You hear both U and the connected LL sound. However, if we prioritize a more casual or relaxed approach, it shifts to a less distinct form. You'll, which can sound more like Y-U-L-L. Let's look at another example, which is quite a mouthful, but illustrates the concept well. First, I'll share it with clear enunciation, then we'll do it in a more relaxed way. He'll go if you'll go, and they'll go if we'll go. In this clear version, each pronoun is distinctly heard. He, you, they, we. Now let's relax it. He'll go if you'll go, and they'll go if we'll go. In this version, notice how the sound of will is abbreviated to just the L, followed by the ULL sound. Let's go through various contractions that involve will so that you can hear these forms in a more natural context. Here's how they sound. You'll get the car. He'll get the car. She'll get the car. We'll get the car. And they'll get the car. Let's revisit the sample sentence one last time together. Please speak out loud as I do, and then you will have a chance to express it by yourself. Here it is. He'll go if we'll go, and they'll go if you'll go. Are you ready? One more time. He'll go if we'll go, and they'll go if you'll go. Now it's your turn to say it independently. Go ahead. Excellent effort. Now, let's move on to the fourth and final secret for mastering an authentic American English accent, which revolves around linking the S sound to a vowel. Pay attention to this sentence. How's it going? Notice how the ending S blends smoothly into the beginning of the next word, specifically the vowel sound that follows. Another example would be, there are cars in the sun. In both of these sentences, the S transforms into a Z sound when paired with a following vowel. Common phrases that illustrate this linking are it and in, as we see in How's it going? And there are cars in the sun. Let's explore a few more sentences to solidify this concept. For example, he's in the office. Listen to how the S sound at the end of he's becomes a Z sound linking to in. Another example, she goes in the theater. The same phenomenon happens here. Similarly, consider this. When he complains, it gets on my nerves. Notice how the linking occurs naturally in rapid speech. This linking technique not only aids in maintaining fluidity in speech, but also helps in sounding more natural. For instance, instead of pausing to separate, you can link the sounds. Don't go to the cliffs, it's too dangerous. If you were to segment it, you might pronounce it, don't go to the cliffs. It's too dangerous. But in fluid speech, it merges into, don't go to the cliffs. It's too dangerous. Let's practice those introductory sentences together once more. I want you to actively participate, emphasizing those pronunciation muscles, and afterward, I will allow you a moment to practice on your own. Ready? Please repeat after me. How's it going? There are cars in the sun. Now it's your chance to say them by yourself. How's it going, everyone? I hope you're doing well. Let's start with some fun pronunciation practice. Picture this. There are cars basking in the warm sunlight, shining like jewels. Can you visualize that? Now it's your turn to repeat after me. I believe in you. Give it your best shot. Fantastic job. That was a great session of pronunciation practice, and I appreciate your effort. But before we wrap things up for today, let's take a moment to review some of the sentences we've worked on. If you'd like, join me in saying these sentences out loud. Practicing together is one of the most effective ways to enhance your pronunciation skills and helps reinforce these concepts in your memory. Let's go through them. 1. I thought he wouldn't appreciate the plant. 2. The winner of the International Winter Olympics has received an important award on the Internet. 3. He'll go if we'll go, and they'll go if you'll go. Now, back to the question I have for you. What is something that you find truly important? I encourage you to incorporate the word important into your answer, as it's a great opportunity to focus on pronunciation. You may notice that in the word important, we have a glottal T sound in the middle and a stop T at the end. Interestingly, we actually don't pronounce the final T at all. If you take the time to compose a sentence using the word important and share it in the comments, I would love for you to practice saying it out loud too. This will provide wonderful pronunciation practice. Plus, you can read each other's sentences to discover what kinds of things people all around the world deem important. Now, you might be curious about the phrase American idiom. What exactly does that mean? Well, these idioms may be recognized by folks in the UK, but they are predominantly used by Americans. If you were to share one of these idioms with someone from the United States, they would likely understand what you're saying without any confusion, as it would feel completely natural to them. For each idiom, I'd like to share a little story, and I invite you to guess the meaning based on the context I provide. Let's dive into our first idiom. Last week, I had plans to meet up with a friend who has a small baby. Just as we were about to get together, she called me in the morning and said, "Hey, Eliza, I'm really sorry, but I have to take a rain check because my baby isn't feeling well. I think it's best for me to stay home and rest. Maybe we can aim to meet up next week instead." So, what do you think the idiom "take a rain check" means in this context? Reflect on it for a moment. The essence of the story is that we had planned to meet, but had to change our plans due to unforeseen circumstances, the fact that her baby was unwell. This is precisely what the idiom signifies: the need to change or postpone your plans due to something unexpected that has come up. You might say, "I need to take a rain check on our dinner date," or "Let's take a rain check on our gathering and reschedule it for next week." It's a great way to express that, although you still want to meet, something has come up that requires you to delay. It's often easy to recall certain expressions if you can connect them to a base word. Take, for instance, the word rain. Imagine you're planning a significant event outside, such as a wedding, which was my experience. On the day of my wedding, the weather turned unexpectedly rainy. Unfortunately, this meant that our beautifully set outdoor plans had to be scrapped, and we had to move everything indoors. We had to adjust our plans due to the unforeseen weather conditions. This scenario provides a useful context for understanding the expression tied to changing plans, as it highlights how external factors can force us to rethink our arrangements. In essence, any situation that requires a change in plans can be related back to this concept of having to respond to rain. Next, let's consider the American idiom, "to shoot the breeze." To illustrate this, let me share a quick story. In a couple of days, I'm excited to meet up with a childhood friend I haven't seen in ages. When I told my husband about this reunion, he inquired, "What do you plan to do? You haven't seen her for a long time." I paused for a moment and replied, I don't know. I guess we'll shoot the breeze." The implied meaning here can be inferred from our context. The term breeze, referring to a gentle wind, symbolizes the lightness and ease of an informal conversation. Essentially, Shooting the breeze means to engage in casual chit-chat, discussing everyday occurrences without diving into profound or serious topics. So, when I said I was going to shoot the breeze with her, it emphasized that we would simply enjoy each other's company and converse casually, not embark on a heavy discussion. It conjures an image of two friends relaxing and exchanging light-hearted banter, with the metaphorical breeze representing the easy flow of conversation. Now, let's explore the third American idiom, to plead the fifth. To better understand this, let me paint a scenario for you. Suppose your friend visits your home and excitedly reveals, "I just had a great date with Sarah yesterday." Curiosity gets the better of you, and you ask, "Did you guys kiss?" In response, your friend might say, "I plead the fifth." This phrase can initially seem puzzling. Why the fifth? The answer lies within the United States Constitution. The Fifth Amendment grants individuals the right to refuse to answer questions that could lead to self-incrimination in legal contexts. However, in a casual setting like this, your friend isn't worried about courtroom repercussions. In its original context, if you were to get pulled over while speeding and the officer grilled you with questions like, "Have you been drinking? Using drugs?" you could invoke, "I plead the fifth," which would signify your right to remain silent on potentially incriminating matters until you have a lawyer present. This illustrates an important legal safeguard. In layman's terms, though, when used in daily conversation, "I plead the fifth" suggests that the person does not wish to provide an answer to a question. In our previous conversation, when you asked your friend about kissing Sarah, his response of "I plead the fifth" implies he doesn't want to divulge the details. Interestingly, this response often carries a subtle implication. It suggests, "I prefer not to answer that question, but if I were to tell you, you already guessed the answer correctly." Hence, when someone uses this expression, they hint at an affirmative answer without explicitly stating it. To conclude with another example, let's say I was stealthily indulging in a piece of chocolate in the kitchen. My husband, Adam, entered and casually asked, "Did you eat the last piece of chocolate?" Given that I had indeed devoured it, my instinct might lead me to respond similarly, evoking that playful notion of evasion inherent in pleading the fifth. And this situation puts me in a tough spot because I don't want to admit it, but the truth is undeniable. I did consume the last piece of chocolate. Even though I didn't outright say, "I ate the last piece," your deduction is absolutely correct. This brings to mind a particular expression that can carry different implications based on the context in which it's used. For example, if you're having a conversation with a police officer and you choose to respond vaguely, he might become skeptical about your honesty. The legal implications can make such ambiguous communication acceptable under certain circumstances, allowing for some strategic evasion of straightforward admission. However, this does not mean that phrases like this automatically confirm guilt in a legal sense. Instead, they serve a different purpose in casual conversations, where the meaning is more foundational and relatable. In everyday speech, this kind of remark can imply, "Yes, I did indeed partake in that activity you're suggesting, though I'm reluctant to say it outright." Now let's discuss an American idiom that you might find particularly interesting: to give props to someone. Allow me to illustrate this with a brief story. Suppose you have aspirations of studying abroad in the United States, and you dream of pursuing your master's degree at Harvard University. Your main objective is clear. You want to secure a place in their renowned program, but in your heart you think, why not take a chance and apply to Harvard? Their reputation is stellar after all. After going through the application process, you find out you didn't get accepted. When you share this update with a friend who inquires about your application status, you might respond with something like, "Unfortunately, no, I didn't get in." In light of your effort, your friend might offer encouragement by saying, "Well, I give you props for trying." So, what does the phrase "give you props" really mean? In essence, props is a shortened form of proper respect. Interestingly, if you were to ask many Americans about the precise definition of props, they might struggle to articulate it fully. I was curious myself and did some research online to clarify. To derive the meaning of this expression, you could think of the full version as, "I'm extending my proper respect for your attempts to gain admission to Harvard. Even though the outcome wasn't what you hoped for, I recognize your hard work and determination. Therefore, I give you my respect." In a more concise way, you could simply state, "I give you props for trying to get into Harvard." This expression serves as a wonderful way to acknowledge someone's efforts, even in the face of failure. Moreover, it's not just limited to giving props to others. You can also extend this acknowledgement to yourself. For example, imagine you encounter a lost traveler from another country while you're out and about in your city. Motivated by your desire to help, you decide to approach them to communicate in English, even though you're feeling somewhat anxious about it. You manage to engage in conversation, and while you might not grasp everything they say, you earnestly make an effort. At the end of the day, you could reflect on your actions and say, "Well, I give myself props for trying. I give myself props for stepping outside of my comfort zone and attempting to speak English." It's a way to validate your efforts, even if the execution wasn't perfect. Now it's your turn. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you needed to plead the fifth? Have you ever had to take a rain check or perhaps given props to someone for their efforts? Who do you enjoy shooting the breeze with? Feel free to share your stories in the comments below and try to incorporate these expressions to broaden your vocabulary. Congratulations on committing to practice your American English pronunciation and vocabulary. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to gain access to free English lessons.